I guess my story begins when I was about 12 years old. I had two brothers. One was 15 years older than I was, and one was 13 years older than I was. My dad was killed in a coal mine accident when I was 6. And so it was just my mother and I. And at 12 years old, we'd taken a trip. The two brothers, the one brother was married, and we got home. And on the way home, they told my mother what a mistake she was making and how she raised me. And she cried and I cried, and when we got back to our home in Red Lodge, Montana, I told my oldest brother that he could just remember that I'd be better than him, that I'd turn out better than he was. And to me, in my mind, that was to make more money than he did. And he was a parts salesman for an implement company, and my other brother was an executive with Mountain Bell. And so I tried to pick a career that would make me the money that I wanted to make. And so in high school, I took a bookkeeping class, which was my favorite class. And so I went to the University of Montana to school and started in business with the idea of doing accounting because I wanted to be a certified public accountant because I made a lot of money. And so I did that, and I decided I'd stay in accounting until I couldn't do it anymore, and it never ended up I couldn't do it. And so I finally graduated from the University of Montana in business administration, but with a major in accounting. And I took the CPA exam before I graduated and passed part of it. And then I had to take it again, and I took it on our honeymoon. We got married on October 30th in Idaho Falls, and then we went back to Montana, and I went over to Helena, Montana, to where we had to take the CPA exam, and Renee spent her time in the motel writing thank you notes, and I went and took the exam. And people think it's funny when I say I passed my CPA exam on my honeymoon, but I did, and I became a CPA. I'd got a job with a small accounting firm called Sugar, Almer, and McGrew. McGrew is the one who lived in Missoula, Montana, where I was working. And I worked with them for 8 years. And after we got married, we lived in Montana and had our first five children, our Montana kids, as we call them. And then the opportunity came for McGrew to start a new firm with a guy named Jack Dobbins. And they were going to call it Dobbins and McGrew, and I was going to become a full partner in it. So this is where the money was going to start really rolling in. Well, it happened the year before that happened that I was asked to teach early morning seminary. And so I started teaching early morning seminary and loved it. It was one of the great experiences of my life to teach these 22 kids every morning at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock is when I'd leave home at 6 and we'd teach at 7 and then drop them off and I'd go to work. And the man who was the full-time seminary and institute coordinator there said, I think you should teach seminary full-time. And I said, no, I know what you make, and I know what I make, and I can't do that. Well, it happened that Renee's family had moved, her mom and dad and younger sister had moved to Spanish Fork, Utah. And so when we came down to Spanish Fork one time, he said, stop in and talk to the people at seminaries and institutes and just talk to them about it and see if you're interested. And so I said I would. So I did, and I just felt that it wasn't the right thing to do. They told me what they could pay me, and I said I can't do that. In fact, it was at BYU is where the office was at that time, and as we walked out of the door, I said to Renee it would take a direct revelation for me to teach seminary. And so we went back to Spanish Fork and then drove home. 2 weeks later, the phone rang in our home just before we were going to have dinner, and it was a man by the name of Dale Tingney, who was one of the administrators of seminaries and institutes, and he offered me a job teaching full-time in Spanish Fork, which is where Renee's folks lived. And I said, no, I'm not interested. And he said, it really would be a good opportunity for you. We're bringing in 4 new teachers. You're one of them. Wouldn't you like that? And I said, I probably would, but I'm not going to do it. And he said, well, you promised me one thing. And I said, sure. And he said, will you fast and pray about it? And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I told you no. And he said, you promised me you'd fast and pray. So when I got off the phone, Renee said, what was that? And I told her. And I said, so I promised we'd fast and pray, so let's eat supper and then we'll fast. So we ate supper and then we started to fast. And after one day, Renee said, it's up to you what we do. And it took me 2 days, and I fasted and prayed about it. And finally, I realized that that's what I should do, that I should leave the accounting firm and move to Utah and teach seminary. And so I had to tell McGrew about it, and he thought I was the most stupid man ever to give up a chance to be a partner to do that. But we did it. And we moved to Spanish Fork, Utah, and I started teaching seminary and taught there for 12 years, and then taught in American Fork Seminary for a year and Orem for 6 years. Somebody said to me one time, have you ever regretted doing what you did? And I said, just twice a month when the paycheck came. But other than that, I never regretted it.